Today, we're going to talk about a truly towering figure in Indian history. I mean, this is a man who didn't just play by the rules of his society, he literally rewrote them for an entire nation. We're talking about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And wow, that quote really says it all, doesn't it? We're not just looking at a political leader here. We're talking about someone who is a genuine beacon of light, whose impact still shines right through the darkest parts of history. So where does a story like this even begin? Well, it starts in the toughest circumstances you can imagine, a place where every single insult, every humiliation was something he learned to forge into a weapon he'd one day use to change the world. Okay, so picture this. April 14th, 1891. Ambedkar is born into a social system that's designed from the ground up to crush him. He was labeled an untouchable, which basically meant he was at the very bottom of the caste hierarchy, seen as impure. It's a level of daily humiliation that's honestly hard for us to even wrap our heads around today. And this really shows you what that meant in real life. This wasn't some abstract idea. It was his every single day. Can you imagine being a kid, being thirsty at school, and you're told, nope, that water isn't for you? Or being forced to sit all by yourself like you're some kind of disease? Even the simple joy of opening a new book was just spoiled by this constant prejudice. He didn't just face injustice, he lived and breathed it. But this is where the story pivots. Because Ambedkar found the one thing no one could ever take away from him: knowledge. And so began this incredible educational journey that didn't just change his own life, it would end up shaking the very foundations of his entire world. And just look at this trajectory. It shows you his unstoppable drive. I mean, he goes from being literally pushed into a corner of a classroom in India to walking the halls of Columbia University in New York and then the London School of Economics. This wasn't just about getting degrees. This was a quest for dignity itself. And would you just look at the result of that quest? A bachelor's, a master's, not one but two doctorates, a law degree. This wasn't some prince born with a silver spoon. This was the triumph of the boy who was once denied a drink of water. This was his answer to a world that tried to tell him he was worth nothing. So, armed with all this incredible knowledge, Ambedkar comes back to India. But all those academic wins, they were just the warm-up. The real fight was just about to begin. He was about to become a living, breathing revolution. You see, when he returned, he found that nothing had really changed. That same darkness of caste discrimination was everywhere. That poison was still running through the veins of society. And he realized, you know what? Arguing in books isn't enough. The battle has to be fought out there, in the streets, in the temples, right in the heart of society. And that's exactly what he did. He organized what are called satyagrahas, a powerful form of nonviolent protest. He led movements to demand that temples, public water wells, and roads be open to everybody. He wasn't just fighting for abstract rights, he was fighting for the basic dignity of being human, to walk down a street, to drink from a well, to pray. And that brings us to his biggest role of all. As India is about to get its independence, it's a society that is deeply, deeply wounded by centuries of division. It needed a healer. It needed an architect. It needed really an ointment for those wounds. And in that crucial moment, who did the nation turn to? The one man who truly understood its deepest cracks. As the chairman of the Constitution Drafting Committee, Dr. Ambedkar was given the monumental task of creating the blueprint for a brand new India. And what he built was so much more than just a rulebook. The Indian Constitution, that was his ultimate weapon for social reform. It was a promise, a sacred promise, of equality, of liberty, of justice, for every single citizen, no matter who their parents were. And this table just breaks it down so clearly. He wasn't just fighting for one group of people. Look at this. He championed the rights of women, making sure they could own property and get a divorce. He fought for laborers, establishing things like the 8-hour workday and safety laws. Think about that for a second. For a brand new country, that was absolutely revolutionary. He was truly building the backbone for the entire nation. So as his life started to draw to a close, Ambedkar set one last incredible revolution in motion. This time, it wasn't political, it was personal, it was spiritual. It was an act of freedom that would echo for generations, reminding us all that the fight for justice never really ends. In 1956, he made this declaration, and wow, This wasn't just about changing his religion. This was the ultimate rejection of the very system that tried to crush him from the day he was born. It was his final, powerful act of taking control of his own identity. And get this, he didn't make that journey alone. 500,000 people, 500,000 people joined him in a massive, historic ceremony to convert to Buddhism. It's still one of the largest, most peaceful social shifts in modern history. In that same year, on December 6th, Dr. Ambedkar passed away. And while that was the end of an era, his work was far from finished. His ideas, his writings, his constitution, they are still the main tools used today in the ongoing fight against injustice in India and all over the world. And really, his whole life boils down to this single, powerful idea. He taught us that, yeah, we can't choose where we start in life, that's fate, but the journey we take, that is all decided by our struggle, by our fight. Dr. Ambedkar was faced with these unimaginable walls of prejudice, and he turned them into doors of opportunity for millions. So his life leaves us with a really important question to ask ourselves. Which wall in your life will you turn into a door?